Hey, before today's episode of Same Business, Different Day, I want to invite you to listen to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we interview the movers, shakers, and changemakers of Vista, California. Watch Velocity on YouTube or tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Velocity, moving Vista forward.
What was the goal?
Actually, just to learn. I love learning about
So important.
things all the time, and I cannot stop. And I actually had not. So it's funny. I got my bachelor's degree, then I went back for the associates. Does that make sense? Illogical, but anyway. And then I decided to pursue the master's degree in social psychology. I mean, that's the focus of it because it just fascinates me how the outside world has such a big influence on how we think. And the people around us, our culture, and we don't even understand it. We don't even know.
Yes.
And we think about using positive affirmations.
Yes.
Like, why do they work? And why does that stuff work better when you do it together with a group? There are reasons why that actually happens. And especially when you do things in a group, when you have that support, it's exponential, the results that you get.
Same business, different day.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. I'm your host, Zeke, recording from our studio here at the Film Hub, where it feels like summer in the middle of January. Man, San Diego, California for you. Now, the guests have been special all season, #Meraki season, and today is no different, bringing her own energy and vibe into the house today, and it's oh so welcome. The sheer number of accomplishments of this woman should not be underestimated. Writer, teacher, leader, and so much more. Let's make room in the Same Business, Different Day studio for the big, beautiful mind of Corinne Lebrun. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm really glad that you're here. And thank you. You know what? Even just inviting you here, I obviously remember meeting you the same night that we've talked about Meraki season and the birthday dinner for Mosise. But at the same time, just since we've been corresponding since then, the emails and everything, you can just feel the energy. And so I just really appreciate that and the positivity. So I knew that getting you in here was going to be so much fun.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Truly, yeah.
Thanks. So now we'll get to know you first and kind of talk about your journey and all of that. And then we'll get to know later about the business person that you are today. That's cool.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So where did it all start? Where'd you grow up?
So it all started in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
And I was born to immigrant parents. My mother's from Germany and my father was from Tunisia. French Tunisia. He's French Tunisian.
Okay.
And they met there at an international youth hostel. And so I grew up as first generation American.
Okay.
And let's see, from there, unfortunately, my father died young when I was 6 years old, and my mother said, forget it. We're going to go back to Germany. So I lived in Germany with my grandmother. And then my mother said after a year, I hate it here. I want to go back to the United States.
Now, she was raised there, right? She was
Yeah.
raised in Germany, but she went back and remembered how much she
Yeah.
didn't like it. So how long were you in Germany?
About a year.
Okay, just about a year.
Yeah. So it was like
Okay.
full immersion into the German language.
Uh-huh.
So it was
So
cold
what
turkey.
were you guys speaking before when it was you and your mom and dad?
English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Boston, yeah. And so I was in first grade, and so when I was in the German school, it was like I had no idea what was going on.
Okay.
And but I had to follow along, and by the end of the year, I knew a lot because I would run out to run to my grandmother and say, how do I say this word? How do I say that word?
Right,
and
right.
so that's basically how I learned how
Well,
to speak German.
I mean, but that's good. At least you had some support. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
funny that we talked about Mo when he came here. and just being like he said, he calls it cold turkey. Like he was just thrown into, you got to learn English. Here's the English classes. Now figure it out. Wow. And that's just the immigrant story is always such a fascinating one. I even hear people learning it by watching TV. And just Mo and I agreed because I've learned a lot of Spanish over the years, and he said we both agree that you kind of know you're there when you start dreaming in
exactly. And I was listening to the podcast.
Okay.
I was listening to what he was saying, and it was like that. Being a kid is like you pick things up quickly.
Sure.
But so I had to come back to the United States with my mom, but I still spent every summer with my grandmother. And so I learned how to speak German and dream in German. And then I unfortunately developed an accent and all that. So when I came back, actually after the first year, people thought I was this, weird immigrant kid from Germany. And it was like, oh my God, where do I fit in?
Okay. But there's a lot of immigrants in Boston, though. So when you came back, did you come back to Boston? Okay.
No, Connecticut, actually.
So that's where you came back to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because my aunt lived there, and it was my father's sister.
Okay.
And so it was a little rough because then I had a hard time understanding what people were saying in English.
Yeah, well, so early in life, though. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, now you start thinking this way, and now you got to start trying. But that actually, later in life, you don't know it then, but later in life, it probably helps a lot, like with the versatility, right?
Oh, entirely.
Okay.
It's like, I also lived there again when I was 14 with my grandmother for another year. So in Germany. And I think what those experiences did for me is made me realize you can see the world through entirely different points of view based on the culture you're in.
Sure.
And also the language you speak, like what that has to do with your perception of the world. And those are things that really remarked on me because sometimes I felt like I was an entirely different person when I spoke German than when I spoke English.
Really?
I felt I was much more extroverted when I was in my German persona, and then I was much more introverted when I was in my my American persona when I was a kid.
Wow. Well, you know what? Okay, so we got to deviate. I got to answer this because I know that you study psychology. I know where you are in your studies, and I think all of that's fascinating. We'll get into that. But do you find that paralleling in any other facet of life, other than, I mean, let's say even with language, like as we've gotten older, can you think one way and have one personality and then just be speaking to other folks and have a different personality completely? Well,
I'm a total ambivert, and I wonder.
What does that mean?
I ambivert.
Okay, see, that's bigger than my.
No.
I'm not ready for this. You're gonna have to educate me early. But now I get it. Ambidextrous, ambivert. Okay, so I get the prefix. Okay.
So like you're extroverted and introverted in sort of a balanced way.
Okay.
But it's like you have traits of both.
Okay.
So for example, an extroverted person, like you thrive on being around people. You love being around people. When you're sad, you want to be around other people. But if you're a true introvert, like when you're sad, you just want to be by yourself.
Sure.
And to recharge, you must be by yourself. But for me, it's like I recharge when I'm around other people.
Wow.
But I love being by myself too. And if I don't have downtime by myself, it's like I just feel really super off balance. So it's just, I'm right in the middle. All those personality tests that they give you, especially if you're like looking for work or something, they never know what to make out of me because I'm like right in between all of it, you know?
But is that not more common that some folks are out and about, but then also like to be left alone? Or is it usually people are one or the other, you're saying?
Yeah, usually people lean one way or another. I don't know what the exact percentages of ambiverts, but I know it's not that many.
Well, I'm left-handed and a Gemini, so I'm probably an ambivert.
You probably are. Who knows?
I feel like, based on your description just then, that sounds right. Okay, so now get me back to the early years, like mentors, early influences and everything. I mean, because a lot of what you're saying involves so much travel, right? You're seeing so many different people, so many different cultures and all of this stuff. And it sounds like early on you were already kind of opening your mind and seeking something or seeing something. Were there influences there or can you tell me about any more of those experiences?
Oh gosh, I'd say growing up in an immigrant family made me realize there was more to the world than just, living in the United States, and more to just our culture. Because, when I go see my aunt who was French, even how we ate dinner, where we placed the knives and forks, and when people came to visit, I had to behave and kiss people on 2 cheeks. And, it was like things were just different. Yeah. And so I think that gave me a sensitivity to other cultures. Even though they're both European cultures, it still made me realize that where you are, people have different ways of doing things and interacting with each other. So I think it also made me a good observer, to watch what's happening with the dynamics of people around me, and to learn how to adapt. And so actually, I don't know if I was a true introvert, but it's like I had to learn also how to really interact with people. And one of the funny things is my mom got remarried, and my stepfather had all these books on his bookshelf. I grew up on 30 acres in Connecticut, and it was freaking boring. It was nothing happening except for my stepfather's bookshelf.
Okay.
And so when my parents are at work and I'm bored, and I'm like, well, what do I do? Okay, let's take a look. This is interesting. Past Lives by Taylor Caldwell. And Transcendental Meditation. What's that? Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
And there was a book on body language as
And you
well.
had no clue that he was into all of this kind of stuff? Or?
Actually, it turned out he wasn't. It was his ex-girlfriend stuff.
That's a great story.
Funny.
Yeah. So you got to get into it though yourself though. And these books were just like, it was your library.
It was, I feel like it was like a gift. That I still have some of those books.
Awesome.
I saved them. But like the book on body language actually really taught me, how to interact with people. And when you walk up, if you're interacting, you don't sit there with your arms folded.
Yeah.
It's like you have an open position, and when you shake someone's hand, how should you do that? So
yeah. And you learn that young.
Yeah, I learned that young. And those things I think really stayed with me. And so I realized how you choose to behave will impact how the world sees you.
Sure.
And you can't always be aware of it, though, of course, at every moment. That's really challenging. But also, anyway, I don't know what I was going to say about that.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
No, what we were talking about early influences, you were talking about, where you gathered information at a young age.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily from a person. You got it from the books and the literature and the information, and then used that watching other folks, right? And so you implemented it, right, as you were out and about. That's awesome. We do talk a little bit sometimes about folks who, are more introverted, like my sister and I. We were growing up, we're both Gemini since we got into signs already. But growing up, we were both shy. And so, I'm still a shy person, but people don't tend to believe that. But the quieter folks tend to be more perceptive. Like you were saying about being an observer. And so then you can watch the body language, you watch the people, how they interact with each other and all of that stuff. And there are many ways you can use that information, right? You can use it to copycat, or you can use it to kind of figure out what that person's likes and needs are, and then work your way into a conversation. There are so many different things that you can do with that. It's techniques that I learned naturally as a child that I use in networking to this day.
Yeah.
Just figuring out a room.
Exactly. You learn how to gauge it and see what's happening.
The Film Hub is the future of co-working in downtown Vista. Get energized in an inspiring work environment that is built for your success. With multiple membership options for workspace and private offices, you can become a part of our co-working community. The Film Hub makes it easier to produce the professional content your business needs. From video production, live streams, photo shoots, or in-person events, you can create all this and more in our audio and video facilities. Love your work and where you accomplish it. The Film Hub. When it comes to your wedding, you want to look and feel your best. You don't need to settle for anything less than perfection on the most important day of your life. With Meraki Allure, you can have a custom designed and measured wedding dress that is exactly what you imagine. They will work with you to choose the perfect style and materials so you can enjoy your dream wedding day knowing that you look stunning. Let Meraki Allure help make your special day unforgettable. Book your consultation today at MerakiAllure.com.
Absolutely. So then, were there other travels that you were doing outside of Connecticut, or were you kind of there through into when you got into the schooling?
Oh, so I was pretty much in Connecticut, except for going to see my grandmother in Germany for the summer times.
Okay.
And I should say there were other very strong influences in my childhood that I haven't mentioned
Please.
yet, which is my grandmother was one of them. My grandmother used to read cards.
Oh.
And then my other grandmother.
In Germany?
My German grandmother
Okay.
would read cards. And then my French grandmother, she was into some type of mystical things, but I could never really quite figure out what it was. But I used to have these strange occurrences, and well, maybe I shouldn't call them strange anymore, but when I was a kid, I used to dream about the future.
Okay.
And I would dream when our relatives had passed away, and I would know about it. And then my mother would say, that stuff doesn't exist. Oh, that's not real. But that drove me to understand what was going on, because first I thought I must be crazy. And then I picked up some of the books on my stepfather's bookshelf,
Right.
and I found myself in some of those books. One of the Taylor Caldwell Past Lives, that was one. And then, of course, Transcendental Meditation. And there were some other ones that talked about things that are more spiritual. And I thought, okay, there's more happening in this world than what people are letting on. And I might be the only one that's thinking about this right now.
Right.
But I'm going to follow this.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow this trail.
Yeah.
So those pieces were pivotal in my life as to where it's now ended up going.
That's so, one of the reasons why I'm so fascinated by you is that you've taken that trail, but you also taken the trail that you're on in business as well, right? So how you've been able to conflate the two is like so beyond what most people would consider possible. You know what I'm saying? And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So let's talk about education. Like, I know that you studied with some spiritual teachers as well, right?
Yeah.
But then also the formal education. Can you give me a little breakdown on like the both sides of that and how you're doing that? Were you doing that at the same time?
Well, okay. I'm going to have to mention a little bit of the business piece.
Okay.
To explain the education piece.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, I was studying, taking calculus and, all the physics classes. And because I discovered this amazing book called The Dancing Woolly Masters that blended together physics and metaphysics. And spirituality and physics. And I thought, okay, now we're really talking here. Now somebody can explain to me, why I have these mystical experiences. Now I can understand. So that path actually took me, I studied theoretical physics and astrophysics for 2 years in college. But while that was going on, most of my friends got jobs at like restaurants or retail stores. And I found, I actually was at an art store because I love the arts too. I'm also an artist. And I said, I'd like to work at this art store. What can I do? And then someone who was actually buying something was like just lamenting, oh, well, we need a bookkeeper. Maybe someone can help us. And I'm like, well, hey, I know numbers. I mean, I'm taking calculus. I suppose I could learn. That statement set my career on a trajectory because they took me on and they taught me how to do bookkeeping. So here I am in high school earning twice as what my friends were.
Okay.
And while I'm, then I graduated and went to college and I'm still doing bookkeeping and business things and building on those skills as I was going to college. And so, okay, and then so for college, this is where my life gets a little confusing because I'm multi-talented, and I learned a new word a couple weeks ago called, and there's a word for people like me, we're called multipotentialites. Meaning we have a lot of potential. We have multitudes of places where we could blossom in different ways, and that we have blossomed in certain places of them, pieces of them, but maybe not all of them yet. So, oh gosh, what was I going to say?
So that would that mean that you would have to like focus on one or the other in order to be able to fully blossom there? Or is it mean that it just hasn't happened yet?
No, it can be simultaneous.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be totally simultaneous.
And so for your education, that's the way that you just approach things, is just like, let's just learn everything all at the same time.
No. So what happened was this. Okay, so here I am, my theoretical physics track, right? And I'm like, this is great, but there's this acting class. Well, that looks really fun. Okay, and I take the acting class. And I'm like, oh man, I'm having a really good time here and having a really hard time doing my calculus homework because I'd be rather, be doing work for my acting class. And then I decided, let's do math and physics and music. So I went into a program for that, as I love writing music as well.
Wow. And
then I was like, okay, now I'm really confused. I'm going to stop for a year. I stopped. I actually went to South Africa for a year. Actually, I'd gone on a backpack trip the year before. And that's a whole other story.
Now, where were you in the education journey at this point? Like
when I went to South Africa?
Was this after high school?
Right after high school. So I had done 3 years of college by then.
3 years of college, and then you were just like, South Africa, let's go.
I've always been a free spirit. I'm like,
I love it.
I can't follow the rules. I've tried,
But then you're picking up education. You're picking up information out there as well, though.
Oh,
anytime,
my God.
Everywhere you go, you're picking up information, and to do something at a place that's different than where you're used to is awesome.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I learned so much about culture, anthropology, and even spirituality. It's like I learned, I never believed nature spirits were real until I was in Africa. Because you can feel them there.
Right. Yeah.
My God. I mean, that's worth a whole other story in itself.
Wow.
And then I went back. When I came back, I was like, okay, I got to finish my degree. And I went to John F. Kennedy University and finished a bachelor's degree, which had a focus in transpersonal psychology.
Transpersonal psychology.
Transpersonal, but it was a liberal arts degree focused in transpersonal, and transpersonal looks at the whole being, not just including your spiritual well-being. So it looks at consciousness not just from a regular psychological point of view, but also looks at it from as a more universal point of view, largely focused on Carl Jung's work. So,
wow, a lot of that was over my head, but I love it.
Don't
No,
worry.
but that's a great journey, though.
It's a weird, it's a niche specialty. So,
yeah, but I mean, it's good to be niche though nowadays, right? It's good to be unique. It's good to be special. I mean, because a lot of folks are doing all the same things, but you're taking things with such a different approach. I'm still not ready to get into the reveal. I'm almost there.
No, okay, don't worry.
I'm almost there, but
there's so much more, in between all there.
But then, so then you went on to your master's.
Okay, we can't talk about the master's yet.
Not yet? Okay.
No, because that's after the business.
Tell me about any jobs.
Business.
How about any work that you did?
Okay, this is where it gets really fun too.
Please.
So this is so let's see. So my business knowledge has always been very pragmatic, and a part of me is like, even though I'm very spiritual, I've had all these really extraordinary mystical experiences. I'm also very science-based and very much in this world.
That's the crazy part. That's the wild part.
And that is really, to me, it's like to be spirituality to me, or having these extraordinary expansive experiences, to me is meant to have us just walk in this world with more awareness rather than not be part of this world. It's to be here in this world.
I love it.
So I've had, let's say, a parallel path in my life. One has been where these mystical experiences have driven me in my academic studies. And that's the real driver behind that. So we've got, looking at physics, and then music as an expressive form, and then psychology, and then social psychology, which we'll get to in my master's degree. And then so we've got that whole track, and then we've got the business track.
Yes.
And so with the business track, I just kept building on my skills. So learning how to run small businesses, learning how to do government contracting, learning how to run nonprofits.
Wow.
And also, and I said, okay, I don't want to do this anymore one day. I'm like, that's it. I'm taking classes at the community college. I'm going to learn media arts. I'm going to learn how to, do productions. And I learned how to write a screenplay. I actually wrote an entire screenplay as a result of that.
Love it.
And I walked into the life-changing moment getting there. So I walked into someone's office because they needed a web designer. I thought, okay, I can use some of this cool stuff and be a web designer. And I walk in there and he looks at my resume. He goes, oh, but you've done bookkeeping and run businesses. And why do you want to be a web designer? How about you want to learn mergers and acquisitions instead?
Wow.
And so I was like, well, okay, that sounds great. So that was a pivotal point. So I ended up working for that company in mergers and acquisitions, learning how to write private placement memorandums. And and as I say, it's all been kind of accidental that all this has happened. But as a result of that experience, I've been able to help other businesses understand what investors are looking for, understand how to build their business models, understand how to build how to be profitable in what they're doing, and also look at the human component behind things that really adds to that. How do you create a workplace that people actually want to come to?
That's what's so fascinating to me. So let me get into the reveal.
Okay.
All right. The author of the Handbook for Badass Spiritual Warriors. Who else do you know using the following words all in one sentence? Science, math, mergers and acquisitions, spiritual, and cultural. If I told most business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs that a resource like Corinne exists, they'd never believe me. Only in dreams can a business person imagine that they could get help, not just growing their business, but to build a more well-rounded workplace and so much more, all in one place. Every once in a while, you get to meet a unicorn face to face, and I'm sharing my meeting with our listeners. Corinne Lebrun, welcome again to our show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored by that introduction.
I meant every word.
The reveal. Oh my God, that's so awesome. I meant
every word, and it's just, I don't know. It's fascinating, right? It's hard for me to even wrap my head around, and I've been studying you. The number of things that you know and have a grasp of and understand, right? Because so many people even just to have a good grasp of themselves spiritually and, having that connectiveness and being able, that's so important.
Yeah.
Right. And crucial, really, really important to be happy in life. Right.
Yeah, it is.
And then at the same time, we can go over here to the business side of things and be like, okay, well, we can figure out this whole workplace situation for you as well. And we can figure out how you can, meet your margins, do the things that you want to do in order to be successful in business. And now we put all these we put both of these together. And I'm not just talking about because I think I have a grasp of it. Corinne, I'm teaching because I have a grasp of it, because I traveled some places or I saw some things, but because I've learned. I've actually educated myself in all of these facets. You're working on your PhD right now. Mm-hmm. This is not like a game. You're not here. It's not play. So, that's what's so fascinating to me. And that's why it's incredible just speaking to you right now. Because I don't even know where to start. There's just so much.
Oh my God. It's so funny. And sometimes I sit there and I'm by myself and I'm like, I don't know anything. Oh my God. I'm like, no, nothing at all. It's like, and then I start talking to people. I'm like, oh my God, I've collected a lot of information in here.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So now get us back to the master's, though. We're going into the master's program. What were you thinking about when you were going into it? What was the goal?
Actually, just to learn. I love learning about
so important
things all the time, and I cannot stop. And I actually had not. So it's funny. I got my bachelor's degree, then I went back for the associates. Does that make sense? Illogical, but anyway. And then I decided to pursue the master's degree in social psychology. I mean, that's the focus of it, because it just fascinates me how the outside world has such a big influence on how we think and the people around us, our culture, and we don't even understand it. We don't even know.
Yes.
And it's, we think about using positive affirmations.
Yes.
Like, why do they work? And why does that stuff work better when you do it together with a group? There are reasons why that actually happens. And especially when you do things in a group, when you have that support, it's exponential, the results that you get. So it was things like that. And I also wanted to understand that when you look at the world, how can you unwind what you see in a positive way so you can connect more with other human beings? Because that is ultimately, to me, when you're on a spiritual path, you're trying to literally clear away the debris that stands in your way of truly connecting with another person. And so to me, studying psychology, social psychology, is all about, like, how do I become better at understanding what's going on so then I can pass it on to other people?
Wow. Okay. So passing it on, because you said connect with other human beings, and you're also saying passing information on or passing it on to other human beings. And I guess that also translates when we're talking to businesses as well, right? Because they want to be able to connect, right? That's really, I mean, if you look at advertising, that's what it's all about, right? So you're able to explain to folks how to figure all of these things out, but really starting from the inside.
Hello, I'm William P. Toom, founder and president of Kaizen Group International, a San Diego-based business development company to support your bottom line. We specialize in recovering research and development tax incentives and reducing your energy utility cost expense. We advocate for your IRS cash rebates and credits, and we minimize the cost expense risk and increase your profit gain. Feel free to contact me directly through LinkedIn, and direct calls are always encouraged. Your success is our business. Thank you so much.
Ignoring squeals and warning lights on your car is not a good way to lower the cost of owning it. And going without essential business insurance is not a good way to save money in your business. What we know for sure is doing either will cost you more than you will save in the short and the long run. With YourInsurancePlace.com, you can trust a specialist to help maintain your cars and avoid major expenses. Business owners should look to business insurance specialists when it comes to finding competitively priced, quality insurance coverage for their businesses. At YourInsurancePlace.com, we specialize in workers' compensation, general and professional liability, employment practices and cyber liability, property owner policies, and bonds for most types of businesses. YourInsurancePlace.com knows that we can help. If you're uncovered, need to lower the cost of your current insurance, or need better coverage, we can help. YourInsurancePlace.com has been helping businesses for close to 40 years. If you need a quote on your insurance, call us now at 858-569-8100 or find us at YourInsurancePlace.com. We are business insurance specialists ready to help.
That's one way, definitely. And for example, with it's called organizational development. When you are looking at an organization and trying to figure out, like, what is our culture really all about, and what are our nuances? And some companies, I call it codified their culture. Literally, it's conscious. They've written it down. They talk about it. They do things to enforce it. And some companies don't do that yet.
Right.
Some companies, they just figure, well, we just all know what we do here, but it's unconscious.
That's funny. I mean, and I can almost understand that, because I'm trying to remember when the term corporate culture actually started, but it's fairly new.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're kind of explaining something that a lot of businesses are trying to figure out right now, that they are actually actively working to do, is to create a culture. And when you do, then everybody can be on the same page. It's one thing, like you say, I like what you said about the fact that a lot of businesses just say, task. It's like tasks. You do this, you do that, you do this. This is what we do, and then we all go home, and then we live our separate lives. But it's another thing to create a culture, and then we almost kind of all have the same mind frame, right? We all have the same goals for our business. And if you can create a culture for the business. So how do you do you do that from scratch? I mean, what's the process to walk into a place and just say, okay, we're going to build a culture?
Well, it's like a business already has a culture, which is interesting. It can either be healthy or unhealthy.
Okay.
But for example, I had one project, actually was right here, was a few years ago. I think it was more like 3-4 years ago now. The Cross Border Express here in, there's a border crossing. It goes from San Diego to Tijuana.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about that bridge. And
Sure.
so part of my team, what we did is we went in and we reorganized their HR department and then also helped to codify their culture because they had a new CEO coming in. And the current culture they had worked so well. It was a startup culture, like everybody loved what they're doing. And it was, well, how do we capture this to make sure that this stays and that this is, perpetuated no matter who's in leadership,
Sure,
and to make sure
sure.
that the right leaders are congruent, like that the right leaders are chosen who actually like the culture, who are congruent with the culture, who can embrace it and then take it a step further.
Okay.
So for example, with a process like that, it's like, you take the different teams and then you find out, well, hey, what do you love about working here? What do you think are the values? And also find out, how do people implement that? Like, how do you start an email? Are emojis okay in this organization? Are they not? I mean, it's really simple things like that.
Okay.
It's how do you pay your vendors? Like, do you have a system in place? Is that something you pride yourself on, paying them 30, 60, 90 days? Like, are you, like, what are the things you really value? Is it about, I remember one of the values they had was about family, because most of them are actually from Mexico. And with the Mexican culture, it's, family is so important. So what was so beautiful is it translated into their work culture as well. So it was more like a family working there than anything else. So those are the types of things to help people find out what their culture already is, what they love, and then how to build on it, how they act on it. And to, you write it up and you hope that, people...
That's funny, and I imagine that it's, I mean, that's a special talent in itself to be able to write it up, right? Because when you've taken it from the feeling, what they think is just like something in the air, their culture, quote unquote, is supposed to be invisible. And then you put it in black and white, does that translate? So you've got to be a really good writer to make sure that feels the same as what we were just explaining to you, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a very collaborative process. So, for example, it's like I would poll them, what do you think? And then I remember we had like a ton of sticky notes, colored different sticky notes on the whiteboards. And so it's a very collaborative process where it's their words.
Right.
It's what they come up with because it's what they own. I'm just merely facilitating the process.
Right. Yeah.
So, but those are, that's one way to facilitate, like, how do you make those cultures become aware? And what I love about what's happening now in the world is that, especially with what we call the great, quote, resignation, people becoming more aware if they want purpose and meaning in their lives.
Right.
And if a workplace isn't giving that to them, then it's been a wake-up call for some workplaces to say, hey, like, how do we fix this? How do we give people a deeper sense of meaning when they come to work? And culture provides that. And so that's...
I like that.
Those things
a
are
lot.
so fascinating to me.
So now there are more needs in the corporate environment, right? And I learned that you work with some of these things, right? There's strategic needs. There's training in employees, right? Financial management. And then we also got this little psychological knowledge that's kind of being intertwined in all of this as well, right? To build on a good business. Is that right?
Exactly. So I'm able to look at things holistically.
That's what makes you special.
So what I love doing is there are two things I do in the world right now. And one is it's like when I consult with entrepreneurs and with small companies, actually CVX wasn't that small, but it's I should say smaller to mid-sized companies, what I'm able to do is see the whole picture because I have a financial background, I have an operations background, but my favorite thing to do these days is to really help with the human aspect and to make sure that people are happy at work and so people are productive. What do they need? And sometimes they literally need new software to be happy.
Sure.
It's that simple. Or sometimes literally it's they need to find better ways to work with their teams. Sometimes people want to work remotely. But basically what I do is I work with companies that I feel in alignment with. They have to be purpose-driven. Mm-hmm. And that is so important to me that you're in some way creating a positive change in the world. Because then I feel good about what I'm doing as well. And I just help entrepreneurs identify, the places they're having a hard time with, and then I just help them create a strategy and an implementation plan to do that. So those are pieces that I do.
Okay, so now there are advisors out there, right, who have less experience.
And
right?
some who have far more than I do.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm just curious about what you think about these folks who want to go into businesses and, turn things upside down and make these kind of changes, who don't necessarily have a lot of experience. And how many have you come across that you have to go back behind and clean up?
The businesses I tend to work with haven't usually had anyone come in to try to fix it, and then I have to go clean up. Thank God that's not the case. Usually the ones I work with, they're busy scaling. They're going from a smaller size business to a larger size business. And I just feel really fortunate that I've been able to help them figure out, how do you build a team that makes sense for where you want to go? Some businesses are very proactive and they move very fast. And if people make mistakes, it's not a big deal. Some are very slow moving and they're very, very intentional. And if, you forget to put a period on an email, they get very upset. Just different cultures, different types of things. I don't know how to answer that.
No, I get it. And I think that, that's what's so important about the way that you approach it. And so in my estimation, your experience helps in that way because an inexperienced, quote unquote, business coach might go in and just say, this is how it worked over here. This is how it's going to work there. This is the only formula I know, and I'm going to keep using it everywhere I go.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Whereas what you're doing is you're going in and kind of assessing everything that's going on, right?
Yeah.
And maybe interviewing the folks that are on the front lines and kind of just figuring out exactly what's going on there so that you can help get them to whatever it is that their goal is, right? It could be scaling, but it could be just expanding on the workforce. It could be, whatever it is. And so I don't know, but I have met some business coaches who just come in with the intention of, what, I met that guy, fire those three, and then I got, a different type of folk that we can bring in and can make things happen right here, right now.
Yeah, I've totally seen that happen.
Okay, so
No, I've seen those things happen, and they never end well because they're not taking culture into account and also the humanity of people into account.
Right.
And if you don't take people's humanity or their humanness into account, they're going to quit. They're not going to be loyal. They're not going to want to come to work. It's not good for anybody.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So now let's get a little lighter.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the work-life balance, right? Because we want happy employees.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
How do we make sure that the way that we approach our business isn't just, hey, work, and then go home, right? Just do what I need you to do and then get on out of here. But instead appreciating and understanding the balance that a lot of your folks need, as well as the business owners themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because the business owner who's going home trying to stress over these numbers and the lines and all may need to take a step back and see from the outside looking in a little bit as well, or at least just take a little bit of time off and allow the work to develop itself, delegate and so forth, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. What was the question?
Work-life balance. I'm just trying to figure out,
balance, yeah.
how do we create a work-life balance in the culture of our businesses?
Yeah, that's also so dependent on the actual culture of a business, but it's but what research is, of course, and it's kind of logical too. Mm-hmm. It's like people want to have the freedom to do the work when they need to do it, have it be project based, and have the autonomy to do it on their own and not be micromanaged. Nobody likes to be micromanaged.
Yeah.
So those are some essential pieces, but it's just different types of jobs require different types of supervision. I mean, some are supervision heavy, especially if you're working, let's say, in a factory, for example. That's kind of hard to do. But, in cases like that, it would probably be, actually, I haven't consulted with a manufacturing company, but I would imagine, you make sure people don't work overtime when, and you actually really, you make sure people have enough time to recharge.
Right.
And that's something that's so important.
Yeah.
And you give people motivators to actually, motivators to show them what they've completed. Say, here are your goals, and this is what you've achieved. And so, because that actually always makes us feel good to know what we've achieved.
Right.
And it also, with positions where people are project-based, also just having to know what you achieved and that it's appreciated. That is so enormous. And so those collaborative models where you've got the employees, the managers, the executive team, where everyone feels like they're actually on the same team and on the same level, where each person's skill set is just it's valued.
Right.
And so those are the types of businesses that create the most harmonious types of workplaces and the most productive. So that's the piece that I'm actually really excited about is now, more and more the information is getting to, let's say, top tier executives in larger companies where they're saying, oh, gosh, the research is out there. If we change this, people are actually going to be happier. They're going to be more productive than less productive. So there's a lot of research on especially hours worked and productivity. I think I can't remember what country it was out of, but people worked 4 days a week. And they were more productive than if they worked 5 days a week.
I've heard this before.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of the study. But for me, it's like I like knowing things intuitively, but then I also like seeing the research behind it because then I feel really empowered to tell, let's say, an employer or whoever, that, hey, this works and this is a good reason to try it. So appeal to the logic,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. How about you? How about finding work-life balance for yourself? We were giggling earlier about fire dancing.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, actually, it's not funny when I really think about what it is. But I know that there's so much involved with your journey on that end of the world as well. So I'm really interested. What is fire dancing, first of all?
Oh, what is fire dancing? That's my latest hobby. So it's like I always have new expressive arts hobbies that I like to do. And I love to, I'm a fusion belly dancer.
Okay.
And so I realized, like, wouldn't it be really fun to learn fire dancing? And because one of my friends does it. And so what it is you basically have, gosh, how can I describe it? It's these metal prongs.
Okay.
It's like a fan. Imagine a metal fan.
Okay.
And then they're lit on fire, and then you dance with them. Okay. And so it looks really cool.
With
at
all
nighttime.
of that hair?
Well, no. So it literally before, because I took my first class in it, and the instructors did not let us light up fire until we'd practiced for 6 weeks.
Okay.
So first, what you're learning is how do you even handle these things? How do you dance with these things? They're heavy, and you have to build some muscle.
Oh.
And then we learn all the fire protocols. Like what to wear, what not to wear. You tie your hair up.
Sure.
It's like, and then how do you actually light things up? Is it close to the audience? Is it far away from the audience? And what do you use to put out fires? What if you get burned? So we learned all those different things. So it's just a lot
You
to
would
it.
do that for an audience?
Oh, heck yeah, absolutely.
That is amazing. So okay, I need to hear more. What else are you doing? What are these other artistic things? This is wild stuff.
So that's I see my latest is I can't do all my hobbies all at once.
I know you're a yoga instructor as well, right?
No, I'm actually not a yoga
Oh, okay. I
instructor.
thought I saw something about Kundalini.
I know
Okay.
it's confusing. I'm sorry.
No.
No, I did the Kundalini yoga teacher training program.
Oh, okay.
But I use that information to help teach people information about their spiritual journey. So something else that I do is I'm a spiritual life coach, especially for people who've had any type of spiritual experience that they would like to learn more about, or let's even get back to. Because sometimes people have had these really peaceful or states or expanded states of awareness. And somehow life is going to cover it up unless you really cultivate that stuff.
Right.
But it's all there for us. So my psychology studies, along with my Kundalini yoga teacher training, all of that is, I put all that information into that.
It's incredible.
So that's fun. And so my creative art. So there have been times where I played the guitar a lot, written lots of songs,
Okay.
written electronic music. I have a little album online. It's electronic music. It's
We got to
not
look
fancy.
this up. We got to
It's
look
not
it up.
fancy,
Tell me
but
more.
it's not fancy, but it's there at least. I love to paint as well. So those are some other things. And dancing is really the one thing I just love doing. I always say when I dance, I remember who I am. And that's why that's on the cover of my book.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's if I ever forget like what my essence is really all about, I need to just find music I really like and then dance. And I think it's that way for everyone. We each have our own creative outlet that reminds us of who we are and the essence of our soul. And that is like something I'm really passionate about. And that is something I really love helping people with. It's like just inspiring them to spend more time with that.
Yeah.
As I know what it does for me, it's like it's healing just in the process of doing it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Congratulations on all that. Okay, now the name, Up Level Ninja.
Oh my God. Okay, story there.
Please.
Oh my God, how much time we got?
The Up Level Ninja Academy. I want to hear about this.
There's a story about an Up Level Ninja. So I was going to name my business, if we're helping entrepreneurs, Up Level. There was nothing, you can't have uplevel.com, it's all taken, but they had uplevel.ninja. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I think I'll do that. And so I had that name for a while. And then I was looking for information on these esoteric meditation practices and having to do with these things called Kundalini awakenings, which I help people with. And I was on Reddit and I saw, it looks like, what do you know? These people who they practice ninjutsu, the ninja, they actually understand what this is about. This is fascinating. So I went down the bunny trail and then I found a martial arts called Toshindo. And that is came out of one of the School of the Ancient Ninja. And so now I practice that and I'm working on my third belt. So literally the ninja word came before I even found out that the part of the ninja path is something I resonate with. So
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Up Level Ninja. Okay, so we're going to, I got to ask you one more question.
Yes.
Because this one is a special one. Based on this season, we talked about hashtag Meraki season. What is your Meraki? Now, we all know, and I'm going to tell the listeners, that Meraki means to do something with love. Like when you put a piece of yourself into what it is that you do, to do something with love, right? So we're interested in knowing, what is your Meraki?
It is getting in touch, it's helping people get in touch with their soul through creative expression.
Wow.
And so that's something I just really love, or inspiring that in people. And you can do that through helping people with their work, their businesses, through living more freely, through believing in themselves more. So that's what I really love doing. And that's the whole thread of my life of gathering more and more information so I can be more helpful with that.
It's so clear. It's so clear. And I mean, it's so special what it is that you do and the approach, the path that you take to get to those folks. I mean, that's just amazing. And I mean, really, really important, but I'm not sure I've ever met anyone that thought of it the way that you think of it, right? You know, these business folks, they sit down and they all think, let's focus on this and let's try to talk about what's going to help us accomplish these goals. And then there are the creatives. They're like, you know, let's just, you know, zone out and figure out what comes to our minds, right? And then there's also the spiritual folks who are like going out to seek some other, get in touch with something and you know, have some connection with something that's bigger than themselves. And then you found a way to like,
Yeah, it's a challenge to be multifaceted, though. I have to say.
Congratulations.
Not an easy path.
what was
in
the
life,
other, what was
but
the other letter?
a multipotentialite.
You're multipotentialite.
There are other podcasts about that with other people. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so the business lesson of the day, creating a healthy culture with intention, provides a happy work environment and a productive business. Okay. I want to thank you, Corinne, for coming and visiting us. And I want you guys to learn more about Corinne and stay in touch with her. Definitely look up the book and purchase it, Handbook for Badass Spiritual Warriors. And also follow her on Instagram at Wild Divine Bliss, or email her at hello@uplevelninja.com. Is that about right?
yeah.
Thanks so much for being here with us.
Wow. Thank you.
This was
Thank
great.
you.
This is great.
Thank
You enjoy
thank
it? You have fun?
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
Very, very much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Want you to like and subscribe us on @SameBizPod, SameBizPod, and @A Different Day Radio. Don't forget to comment and hashtag Meraki Season, MERAKI Season. Thank you all for listening. You guys are the best. Thank you for your support. Same business, different day.